Well then, this is not a play, it is not the Mermaid Inn. Tis certes not the Isle of Prospero, nor I not Caliban dreaming. Let me see now. Seek you out a small circle of friends where the table is set for you. Oh. Where the table is set for you, the muse done. Quite a sense of humor. Well then, dear folk, quite a rollicking good band of musicians, and indeed a rollicking rendering, though however truncated, of mine own play. What say you for a good big round of applause for them? Anent the matter of my play, 'twere best remember in what part of the world is this, I do wonder? Are we still in Hades and yet a different part? Have I been plunged into another realm? Alas, dear friends, I have found mortality once again. It's a legacy that I had forgotten about. I do speak of an occasional cough or a chortle or a fart or what you will. And so I must, as I was wont to do ere my plays began, to prologue this by apologizing for being all too unused to the demands of a physical body. So, and I do begin to sniff or cough or chortle or fart, and I pray your pardon in But the play. The play. I did prologue Taming the Shrew with a certain charade, if you will, a jest upon Christopher Sly. The play is best accomplished as a man's dream of conquest. A success that is, alas, seldom if ever emulated by the reality. One thing especially I did appreciate, and that was the use of women upon the stage. An excellent idea, how say you? One I did have in mine own time, some several centuries past, but alas, I did not finish. But ladies then, have you not dreams of conquest too? Hey, how say you? I'm reminded of mine own poem, Venus and Adonis, a rather lengthy poem, with ribaldry for source, for a sour ending, well, a tragical ending, nonetheless. But I will not all burden your ears with that. They have a sonnet. Well, well. Huzzah! God save the Queen! God save the Queen! A sonnet of Venus and Adonis. Venus, with Adonis standing by her, under a myrtle shade began to woo him. She told the lording how God Mars did try her, and as he fell to her, so fell she to him. Even thus, quoth she, the warlike god embraced me, and then she clipped him in her arms. Even thus, quoth she, the warlike god unlaced me, as if the youth should use like loving charms. Even thus, quoth she, he seized on my lips, and with her lips on his did act the seizure. And as she fetched breath, away he skips, and would not take her meaning, nor her pleasure. That I had my lady at this bay to clip and kiss me till I run away. I little wonder the lad did flee the amorous advances of the goddess of love. In mine own time we had the pox, so I told you. I'm also told your remedy is the fitting of a tiny glove upon the staff of life. Rather, I should think, like the drinking of wine without the tasting of it. Yet anything is better than the pox. It does remind me of a means we did avail ourselves, in which we did, it did entail the usage of intestines of the, well, let that go. I will tell you this, my father dared make such gloves as these. But what noble work is here? Beneath our symbols of mortality, a new rendering of Plutarch, be like that saucy Ovid. Well, 'tis I and mine own progeny. So it saith. Oh. Hemmings and Condell saved my place and put it to print. With an inscription by Ben Jonson. To the reader, this figure that thou here seest put, it was for gentle Shakespeare called, wherein the graver had a strife with nature to outdo the life. Oh, could he have but drawn his wit as well in brass as he hath hit his face? The print would then surpass all that was ever writ in brass, but since he cannot, reader, look not on his picture, but his book. Oh, dear friend, my thanks. Dear, dear beloved friend, my sweetest thanks. He did tell me later in Elysium of his part of this, and that he cut my plays. Were they all of the same length? Taming of the Shrew, eh? All right. Nay, there is a Biandello. Well then. Well, let that go. 'Tis done. Small Latin and less Greek indeed. What do you think you want the likeness of spirit like? 'Tis not a face, methinks, shall launch 1,000 hearts. 'Twere better heed the poet's words and read. But I do o'erleap myself, like unto a newborn colt, drunk with the spirit that would run, but bearing gangly legs would merely totter. Let me begin then. As that colt, with the first, nay, with a time when the world did open up to show to me a wonder. 'Twas in the summertime, in the balmy air of Whitsuntide, and all the town of Stratford was abuzz with the coming of new pollen for the honey of our entertainment. The Queen's players were come, and we were to see a play. My father had been selected high bailiff of the town some few months past, and as we entered the very hive of crowded expectation, the guild hall, Master John Shakespeare in his furred gown and medallion, his lovely lady wife, my mother Mary, resplendent in her Sunday best next, and I last, in my first jerkin, a waggle, like gosling in a train, and all in state behind the beadle with his mates. Ho, ho! I was prince of the market town and all the world. Others of the townfolk had already been seated, and enviously cast their eyes on us as we were led to the first row. I to stand betwixt my father's legs, and then the play began. It began not with a thunder, but rather with a little drum roll, as of a troop of men from across the cornfields to the south of town. In sooth, 'twas behind the arras the players had set. Well, all right. And so out poked a single pipe, with but a single plaintive note, then turning round as seeing us, beat a cowardly retreat. The drum then urging forth the pipe, as 'twere retaliating. Well, I'm sure. And then the drum urging forth the pipe retaliating until it lay out of the pipe and kettle and the clown. Ah, oh, the clown. A short, misshapen oddity of a fellow, with all large head and face, shapeless and movable as a sheep's bladder. He did enter with his warring instruments, and piped and drummed and played the tabor with his elbow, and all in tune to a jig, which he did perform nimble as a goat, and then began to juggle as he jigged, then ate the crab sequentially. Now, I have quite passed my mark, but this is merely prologue to the wonders of a motley fool, an apish fool, for anon he'd bite and grin and all would laugh. Then would he bite and blow and grimace and again a riot of laughter, until my declension there was naught of apples except in tiny pieces on the floor, and superfluity of laughter's molten tears on all our burning cheeks. And this same jaunty, juggling, jiggling jackanape was none but Dick Tarleton, the Queen's own favourite and most famous player in all England. I would later have the all too brief a privilege of basking in the glory of his knowledge as apprentice player, and later yet remembered him as Yorick. T'other sight that screwed my memory to the sticking place was the apparition of Susanna. For the play, methinks, was called the Trials of Susanna, the most virtuous maid that e'er o'ercame the vagaries of fortune. Susanna was all virtue, in the Roman sense, virtus, strength with modesty, innocent and wise, but more steadfast. Her sighs were the winds, her joys the very sun, her tears the Castalian springs, and she was played by a boy of some 13 years or so, who did so persuade me of her qualities in the playing of her, that in my later youth I did name our first child Susanna. 'Twas happily a girl. When the last applause did fill the hall to overflowing, 'twas my father rose to pay the player's purse, but 'twas I, resolved to one day plunge me into the heart of that great mystery muse, the theatre. I was but a lad of some 5 years, and soon to begin learning in dame school with Mistress Margaret. I am told of those would doubt the learning of an upstart crow come up from Stratford to London to make plays. Certainly, say they in their infinite wisdom, a bumpkin boy from Warwickshire ne'er did write such plays as these, nay, nor poems neither. Most certainly they were writ by some university wit, or some great lord of learning. Mayhap the Queen herself did write them. Well, I will tell you this. When at the age of 7, a lad of Stratford did first wend his way to the guild school, he had already learnt to form his numbers, and his letters, and to read. And then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school, where he was drilled in Latin. Latin. And more Latin. Latin, first bell, 6 in summer, 7 in winter, 2 and 11. 'Twas home to dinner then, and helped my father with his glover's trade. Then Latin, 1 to 5, with Master Hunt. A bright man, and a kindly, but as it did transpire, unsuited for the formation of young minds, for because he was a Catholic. A dangerous commodity in the time of the My parents, too, were of that elder faith, and torn twixt saving of their children's souls or skins, opted for the latter, encouraging us to learn the Anglican conformity and praying for God's forgiveness. And God bless their troubled hearts. But I do digress. Back to Latin, where repetitio est mater decidendi. Now, for that few of you who are not Latin scholars, I shall apprehend. Repetition is the mother of learning. Already the fivefold way of Erasmus doth return. Apprehend, recite, construe, recite, and memorize. Scio, no ignoro, no me fugit, no me latet, no me preterit, no sum nesce. I know. I do not ignore knowledge. It fleeth me not, it laggeth me not behind, it precedeth me not. I am not ignorant. It was after all Renaissance, with all things knowable and man the measure of all things, until he did return to Sunday services to remember he were dust upon God's sleeve. But, again, I do digress. Back to Latin, where I intelligo, video, sensio. I think, I watch, I feel. Excellent instruction for a budding poet, eh? Or a hang-hog statesman Bacon, or a wastrel Earl from Oxford.
No, certainly, they would have their learning by the very best of private tutors.
And we were well taught to by the thundering Welshman, Master Thomas Jenkins, by my red beard. A blustery man indeed. But a kindly too. And one who tolerated well the lad who sat beside the leaded window and gazed with wonder through the prism of the world. Therein did I find full many a wondrous conceit. 'Twas in my 11th year, belike, upon this orb of infinite discoveries, and we had just returned from week-long holiday of Whitsuntide, that I did daydream on the recentest events. Sir Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, had just been hosting the Virgin Queen in the grandest show of hospitality imaginable. And so did I sit and dream. And then in dreaming dreamt, what if? What if? What if? Master Shakespeare! Art thou in fairyland? I'll ask a final time, what dost thou? Conjugating, Master Jenkins? Conjugating? I'll see thee after class, where I could expect naught but the rod, which was seldom spared. but sooth to say, so goodly he didst read my truant poems, writ when conjugating verbs was the appointed task. Aye, and praised him too, and helped me shape him into something better. Goodly fellow indeed, and one who did impart in me a lusty passion for the power of language. But then instruction did continue. Out of school, perchance, when late of an evening after supper and the chores, a sometime genial sire, or often gracious dam, or aunt, or uncle, always warned the day, but eftsoons warmed by the heart. We all of us had our handwork, when they would break into a story. Mayhap 'twas but the story of the cunning cuckoo, that social recreant that leaves her egg in the nest of the warbler, then whisks away, free as the saying, free as a bird. But the little warbler is not so free. For the cuckoo, once it hatched, was so big it tumbled the other eggs and brood unto their deaths, and then began the awful comedy. For the cuckoo grew so quickly and so large, but the little mother warbler, now bereft of all her true progeny, and dwarfed now by her child's changeling, was so beset with insatiable demands for food, she well nigh wasted into nothing ere the cuckoo flew the nest. Now each of these stories had a moral, and the moral of this story was, look well to your eggs ere they do hatch. Well, they have a family story, that of the saucy wife of a distant, flinty, ancient cousin, Leofric of Mercia, which man is known to history through his wife, and which lady, to protest my lord's o'er heavy taxes on the people, did ride in stately progress on her palfrey through the town of Coventry, with naught upon her person but her flaxen locks and smile. Aye, Lady Godiva. A relative! How I did love these family stories. Oh, but best of all was the tale of Guy of Warwick, that noble progenitor of my mother's line, the Saxon house of Arn. Legend hath it, in the time of King Aethelstan, this man of boundless courage did return from pilgrimage to find the Danes besieging Winchester. Well, the adversaries had agreed to settle all by single combat, each side choosing champion. When the Danes did proffer forth their champion, Very well, very well. Dear folk, I must need to ask your aid. For this is a rather high heroical sort of story, and can do with a bit of noise. And belike we can make our own noise with it. So they have an ooh here, and ah, and you, sir, can you emulate the sound of horses' hooves on the field? You, dear folk, you shall be the Dane's horse, and you, dear folk, why, there, then you should be the Warwick's, the Earl's horse. Now, dear musicians, I pray you use your instruments. Have you all heard? Methinks I did hear some brass.
Aye.
Well, then, trumpeter, put your lips to brass in but a moment. Let me see now. I will start again. The Danes did proffer forth their champion, a giant, name of Coldbrand. Well, Aethelstan cried out for volunteers, and none stood forth but a poor palmer. Well, Aethelstan could nothing do but accept him with reluctance, and a mumbled prayer for a miracle. Instead, he got the Earl of Warwick. Now, beneath the heat of the noonday sun, on the tourney of battle, can we have our fanfare, please? Our champions do bring down the casque visors in full armor, and do ride against each other. The Earl brent his spear against the giant's shield, and with a single mighty blow, the giant cut off the head of Warwick's horse. The tide had quickly turned against our hero, but still they fought on foot all afternoon. Now one side gaining the advantage, now the other. Eventually, Warwick did remove the giant's monstrous club by lopping off his arm. Still they fought into the night, till at length the giant grew faint from loss of blood, and with a mighty blow the Earl of Warwick cut off the head of fearsome Colbrand. Winchester and all England was saved from the Danes. Huzzah! Well done, well done. Now I'll tell you this. Warwick did refuse all rewards, and returning now to Warwickshire, built a small hermitage on the banks of the Avon, to which he then retired in prayer. I did often think to write a play on Guy and Warwick, but alas, I found much too much the legend of perfection, much too little of the man, and I was loath indeed to find fault with our ancestral hero. Still, it did pleasure me as a boy to know I was descendant of a once great lineage, howsoever supplanted by the Normans. I was all too soon to learn the fickle ways of fortune and the terrors of mortality. But my own father's fortunes did steadily decline, and my two elder sisters, when but hard upon the heels of their births, did die. Why, it was half a miracle I survived, for I was born in the year of greatest plague, in the half-century of Her Majesty's reign. And then my little sister Anne did fall before the Reaper's deadly sire, and it did strike my soul to the very quick, to gaze upon those cheeks that I so oft before had pinched and find the flush of life had gone. Forever. It is a longish word. I was more than once to gaze into the deadly eye of death, and found there a terrible beckoning, a pull into oblivion. But I was young, alive, and resilient. And my chiefest pleasure, I played at children's games, but my chiefest pleasure, all too rare, what with year-round school and daily chores, was to gambol in the dew-filled woodlands and the fields of spring, to learn the names of flowers upon the river's bank, to tune mine ear to birdsong. I knew all too well the ravens cackled from the bell tower and gave to it a darkling meaning, but I could tell a throstle from a woodcock, or a handsaw from a hawk. Now, sir, what is to be a handsaw and a bird at the self-same time? No, you not? Well, I will tell you. 'Tis to be a heron that soars the air thus as it doth walk. Full many a song would come of those halcyon days when life was youth and all the world was meant for. Sing. When daisies pied and violets blue and lady smocks all silver white and cuckoo buds of yellow hue did paint the meadows with delight, did paint the meadows with delight. And then the lover, sighing like ferns, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress, eyebrow. Under the greenwood tree who loves to lie with me and tune a merry note unto the sweet meadow's throat. Come with a come hither, come with a come hither. Here shall we see no enemy, but winter and rough weather. Even now, troilus words return to me. Oh, I am giddy! Expectation whirls me round. The imaginary relish is so sweet that it enchants my sense. What will it be when that the watery palate tastes indeed loves thrice repured nectar? Death, I fear me. Swounding destruction, or some joy too fine, too subtle potent, tuned too sharp in sweetness for the capacity of my ruling powers. Oh, I do fear it much. And I fear besides that I shall lose distinction of my joys. As of the battle when they charge in heaps, the enemy flying. So it was, in such a way, on such a day, in haymaking time of the fields of delight, that Anne and Will did ply their wantons there. She got with child, and he got with wife, and thereby hangs the tale. Oh, she was a comely lass, with burnished hair, and some years elder than myself, but eager too for me as I for her. And though we were untutored in the sport of dalliance, still the world did fold upon itself and burst into 1,000 constellations, revealing a new and dreadful power. I could have sworn she loved our loving much as I or anyone. But she had got too much the Puritan fear of pleasure to admit to it some 2 years hence. We were both pulled by the force of life, and used not a farthing's worth of wit in deliberation. And I was later to apply my hard-earned lessons in the making of plays. And yet, whence springs this mystery to which I was so attracted? Was it some hidden well, some deep exchequer of the mind, from which the commonality of our own human truth could be drawn upon by wit, by wizardry, or by the right signature? Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princess to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles all, the flat, unraised spirits that have dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place 1,000,000. And let us, ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined two mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man and make imaginary puissance. Think, when we talk of horses, that you see them printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth. For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply admit me, chorus, to this history, who prologue like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. When I left Stratford town with the players, the voluble part of me did reason thus. 'Twas the fittest way to find out Dame Fortune and reconstitute our family honor. Little did my father wot, in the high tide of his estate, how the currents of the world would seize upon his Catholic recusancy and drag him down into the shoals and eddies of misfortune. Oh, 'twas not illegal to be a Catholic, though to be so was to court the gravest accusations. But it was illegal to not attend the services of the Church of England, anathema to adherents of the Church of Rome. And whereas before the fine had been a sum merely to be reckoned with, 'twas now a sum for all but the wealthy to be ruined by. It went in 1 year from 10 shilling to 20 pound. A gargantuan leap of 20 times 20. By Our Lady, 'twas more than many a landed country gentleman did earn, and my father was not that, not yet. Oh, the nobility were often the devoutest papists, but they were seldom called to account. And there was no small reason for suspicion for some few months past, or rather years. 2 of my cousins did lose their heads in a failed attempt to kill the Queen and set up Mary Stuart and the Pope. But which came first? Rebellion or the persecution? At any rate, my father's former deeds of office were little boot against the strong teeth of Her Majesty's Warwickshire watchdogs. Sir Thomas Lucy, none too pleased with me for a satirical song that I did write, and some few other things. The Dudleys, Earls of Warwick and of Leicester, staunch Protestants all. My father's former services, his friends, his very self, did recede into a kind of invisibility of inaction. I am reminded of the words I did put in the mouth of Ulysses, that cunning man of the world, in counsel to that great layabout before the walls of Troy, Achilles. Time hath, my lord, a wallet at his back, wherein he puts alms for oblivion. A great-sized monster of ingratitudes. Those scraps are good deeds past, which are devoured as fast as they are made, forgot as soon as done. Perseverance, dear my lord, keeps honor bright. To have done is to hang quite out of fashion, like a rusty mail in monumental mockery. Oh, let not virtue seek remuneration for the thing it was. For beauty, wit, high birth, vigor of bone, desert in service, love, friendship, charity, are subjects all to envious and calumniating time. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin. That all with one consent praise newborn gods, though they are made and molded of things past, and give to dust that is a little guilt, more lord than guilt or dusted. The present eye praises the present object. E'en so did this present eye praise and seek the present object. I hitched my star to the player's wagon and went in pursuit of Mistress Fortune's pretty petticoats. I had offered them a rendering of a play, which I did entitle War Hath Made All Friends, and also a reworking of the Plautus, which was to later become Comedy of Errors. Burbage liked it well, so it was grand as anything when, all unknowing, I did join with Leicester's men. The low man in the barnyard, this young cock, now was chanticleer and cock-a-doodle all the turn and all the way to London town. When at last the oarsman's cry came, "Eastward ho!" and Burbage took me by the arm to steady my crossing of the vasty Thames. Mine eye and heart and lungs and soul were set ablaze by the sight of London Tower, the bridge, the capacious vault of St. Paul's, dwarfing the spires of many smaller cathedrals, like unto a mother swan and her brood, with the din and bustle and the size of London life. Never mind, my gorge did turn at the sight of so many severed heads on pikes on London Bridge, and gape for kites to peck at, staring on oblivion. Or turn again with the stench of the running sewers of the city. This was the price to pay for being at the center of the whirling world. You see, Elizabeth was God's own anointed, and her people loved her well. And she was worthy too. Drake was soon to set to rout the Spanish monarchs of the sea, the once invincible Armada, and England was become the sceptered isle. Books were put to print with ever-increasing speed, and every day new translations, new discoveries, new inventions were available in the bookstalls of St. Paul's. A largesse universal lay before us, bounded only by the limits of our imagination. And the theatre. Oh, the theatre! No more playing from the back of a cart. No more ball pits, no more guild halls, no more country inn-yards. This was the particular place for the playing of a play. Our founder, you see, the fiery James Burbage, was a man of vision. And when he built the playhouse, there was none other, so he simply called it the theatre. Well, it was modelled after the Bear Gardens, which were used for an ill purpose, the baiting of bears and bulls, but it was a most felicitous design. You see, it was a wooded O, circumscribing an open pit, over a moiety of which was thrust a stage, with 3 tiers for the seating of up to 2,000 auditors, of the which, together with the groundlings standing in the pit, there was not a single pair of ears farther from the speaker's mouth upon the stage than 100 feet. Ha! Oh! A noble edifice indeed, the very best. But yet that best was bested yet again by the later globe, that phoenix-like was resurrected from the timbers of her mother. I like that. Let's see. Resurrected from the timbers, the ashes, what think you? The ashes, nay, timbers were better. Not fine to strive. Well, it has gone to the plays. There was a deal of doggerel upon the stage. But what a rapture filled mine ear with Marlowe's mighty line. Now walk the angels on the walls of heaven, as sentinels to warn the immortal souls to entertain divine Xenocraty. And though his verse filled not the heart, still did it astonish, burst appointed limits, and point a new and monumental way. And how those words reverberated through us all when so well articulated and declaimed by Ned Alleyne. 'Twas a perfect pairing, the mellifluous Marlowe and the mesmerizing Montebank. And too, it was a bit modish. Edward Alleyne, the foremost player of the day, was also the first and greatest fustian, and was alas imitated by many a poor magician who must needs make a mockery of the stage. Nay, mine own investigation into the player's art did find me admirably fitted with the perfect glove for the hand that learnt to wield the pen. And that most felicitous of metaphoricals was Richard Burbage, James's son. Dick Burbage was a player both of power and integrity, the actor's nonpareil, and one who would surpass Alleyne. I learned from him and he from me. And in my guiding of the players through the forests of my plays, I found signposts along the way. I was fortunate among men, secure in the first and finest theatre in England. Got a noble patron, sailed to Venice, Italy in 21 days to see the seats of the Renaissance. Got new loves and lusts with every cause to think me happy. But even as I took my place at the feasting table, the world, once so ripe and gaudy, began to wither in the eating into tasteless fruit. The playing of plays proved difficult, what with the plague and the good Puritans of London Council. The matter was argued from one pulpit close.
The cause of plagues is sin, and the cause of sin is plays. Ergo, the cause of plagues is plays.
And this scintillating logic might well have prevailed had not Her Majesty wanted to hear plays. God save the Queen. God save the Queen. Huzzah. Eat still. The theatres must needs be shut in summer months when plague was at its worst. And on our return, all flea infested and lice bedridden from the road, the bawdy houses reeked of the pox. Kit Marlowe, the great rapscallion of the stage, was now accused an atheist, high treason. Kit Marlowe, lately of Her Majesty's Secret Service. This self-same Kit Marlowe, who had also been a member of the Knight, or rather the School of the Knights, with Dr. Dee and Sir Walter Raleigh, This same Christopher Marlowe, whose self-professed chiefest pleasures were tobacco and boys, was mine own chiefest rival. And look you now, he was stabbed in the eye and slain in a hugger-mugger tavern brawl. It was a cruel and a violent age. Had the demagogues of the pulpit further looked, they would have profited all by banning bear and bull baiting and the butchery of public execution. It was a cruel and a violent age. I do remember all too well when I, attendant honeybee upon the flower of youth in England, Harry Risley, 3rd Earl of Southampton, and my patron, when I did answer a dare to attend the butchering of Her Majesty's little physician, Dr. Lopez. My lord's hero, the foolish Earl of Essex, had arranged our tidy entertainment, for because the little man displeased his vanity. God's blood, quoth he, that a little Portuguese Jew should be closer to Her Majesty than myself. Ha! And shortens answers to me too. Well, he pressed charges of high treason, and though proof was wanting, still did paid witnesses and his grace's not inconsiderable influence win over first the Privy Council, then Her Majesty's sad consent. Oh, 'twas a gay, young, dandy lot of us, in our dandies' carriages, drunk on dandies' clarets, that went to see and cheer the Jew as he was hanged, drawn, and quartered. He did protest his innocence, and I believed him too. But the death warrant had been signed, and the rabble clamored for blood. When at last the skillful executioner held the still beating hearts in his hands and squeezed out the life of Dr. Lopez before his still seeing eyes, to the cheering and the jeers of lookers-on, I held my gorge. My soul did retch to think that this is man, paragon and measure of the world. Ecce homo. The Earl of Essex was, in a later attempt to seize the crown, to find himself the shorter by a head for his attempt. Poetic justice. But still, you see, the courtier's smile proved false. The promise of the world did turn to dust and dung, and I in England wore our mantles like a pall of melancholy. And even then, the bell was yet to sound its deepest knell of doom. And I was approaching the very heights of my powers. The tragic tale of star-crossed lovers, o'er-hot and hasting to their ends, did thrill the London audience, and was received a unanimous success. Oh, she doth hang upon the cheek of night, like a rich jewel in an Ethiop's hair. A new star was flung into the theatrical firmament with Romeo and Juliet, and that star was mine. My next play, though earlier writ, was the story of Richard II, a self-conceited king who talked o'er much and did o'er little, and thereby lost his crown to Bolingbroke. But even though inferior, still did it inebriate the ears of its auditors. Oh, that I were a mockery king of snow, standing before the sun of Bolingbroke to melt myself away in water drops. And even as applause did fade on the first performance, a messenger, all breathless, come from Stratford, brought news to me my son was sick and like to die. That journey I was wont to make in 2 easy days. I made all night, changing horses twice, in haste and fear and hope. The missive Anne had sent was wrong, and Hamlet would yet live. When I rushed all beaten by the road and mud bespattered into Henley House, I found a wake of cousins in the kitchen, mute as worms, who turned their gazes upwards. I leaped the stairs in a trice, and when at last I stood before the place my son had been, I found a body. Swathed in mourning sheets. Oh, little anatomy. Oh, precious seed of all my fondest expectations. Oh, fragile crescent plant of new beginnings, long ignored and now quite withering. Oh, Hamlet. Oh, my only son. Art thou cold? Art thou fled indeed? Aye, cold as stone, cold as the clammy grave. Thou'rt gone, and left me all alone with grief. Nay! Nay, thou mayst not go, but I'll command mortality, and Orpheus, I'll follow thee to hell to win thee back with vaunting words and ancient music plucked upon the heartstrings of this hollow shell. Nay, thou'rt gone, and poets posturing could never bring thee back. Never, never, never. There's the sad finality that flouts me now. No remedy for the spectre of thy lifeless corpse. Oh, come again, and live, and sup on dainties, cates, and apricocks, and sugared plums thy quondam father would have brought for thee, had he only known of thy departure. Nay, quite gone. No cure for nevermore. And all my powers are now grown impotent to pluck thee from thy unremitted rest. Yet I'll join thee in thy sleep of death. And then? What comfort then to my bereavement? Oh, there's not a poet that the poetess can conjure thee to frolic in the sun. And I, all guilty of my ignorance, must stalk the earth and rage against thy passing. No sonnet, no piddling poem thine, but yet I'll tell them yet of thee, my prince. But yet, not yet. My beating heart shall break his bounds, but mourn me still with grief and silence. By yonder mulberry tree, I swear, to plant the seed for thee. Then if thou needs must go, I'll honour thee by that still mayst grow. Now get you to my lady's chamber and tell her let her paint and bench. Thick to this favour she must come. Make her laugh at that. For some several years Hamlet took the stage to something it had never been before. And when it did, it took the imprint of my son. An irony of tide and time would have it hard upon the heels of Hamlet's death. The herald's office granted me a coat of arms. With none to leave it to save death, and that small model of a barren earth which serves as paint and cover to our bones. Hey-ho. Then hey-ho, sing hey-ho, unto the green holly. Most friendship is fading, most longing mere folly. Then hey-ho, the folly, this life is most jolly. The venting of my spleen begat a generation of still breathing scorpions of mine, and was requited with measure for measure, Timon of Athens, Troilus and Cressida. Oh, false, false Cressida! Till then I'll sweat and seek about for eases, and at that time bequeath you my diseases. For Lear, if Hamlet was monument to my son, then Lear was monument to me. And now, all shaking thunder, smite flat the thick rotundity of the world! Or the Scottish play, the Scottish Caterpillar King. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and that is heard no more. 'Tis a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury signifying nothing. You do me wrong to take me out of the grave. Thou art a soul in bliss, but I am bound upon a wheel of fire, that mine own tears do scald like molten lead. The weight of this sad time we must obey, speak what we feel, not what we ought to say. At length my fury did abate, and pay obeisance to my another chamber of my heart. It is little wonder in my later plays, after Cordelia, the innocents survive. Thesa and Marina, Imogen and Perdita, Miranda. Why, Even cold and stony statuary warms to breathy life. I had none other wizardry than this. Since brass, nor stone, nor earth, nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways his path. How, with this rage, can beauty hold a plea whose axiom is no stronger than love? Oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wrackful siege of battering days? Since rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays. O fearful meditation, where, alack, can time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? Oh, none. Unless this miracle have might, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. Alas, dear friends, my time with you draws now to its flickering end. I must depart. I have done more of raging than I would, though less than I might. For I was lightning rod to the muse, forged upon the anvil of this world. But in the ending of my days I learnt forgiveness and acceptance, and they were consolation to me in the gardens at New Place, where still I dreamt a better world into being. And where, as I am told, the scion twice removed of that first mulberry tree grows still. Ye elves of hills, whose standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sands with windless foot do chase the ebbing Neptune, and do fly him when he comes back. You demi-puppets that by moonshine do the green sour ringlets make, whereof the yew not bites, and you, whose pastime is to make midnight mushrooms that rejoice to hear the solemn perfume, by whose aid, weak masters though ye be, I have bedimmed the noontide sun, called forth the mutinous winds, and twixt the green sea and the azured vault set roaring war. To the dread rattling thunder have I given fire, and rifted Jove's stout oak with his own bolt. The strong based promontory have I made shake, and by the spurs plucked up the pine and cedar graves. At my command have waked their sleepers, oh, and let them forth by my so potent art. But this rough magic I here endure, and when I have required some heavenly music, which even now I do, to work mine end upon their senses that this airy charm is for, I'll break my staff, bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound, I'll drown my book. I do wish acceptance and forgiveness for you all. Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted in air into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with the sea. I pray you, plant a mulberry seed.